Hello and welcome everyone, I'm Madals and this is game number 2 of a best of 3. It's from RedBull BattleGrounds New York and it's a PvP. Going down on Cloud Kingdom, which is a map we haven't seen in the pool for a long time. It's certainly going to lead to some cool stuff. So spawning down in the bottom left hand position as the Red Protoss player. He plays for Woojin Stars. It's sOs. And his opponent up in the top right position, the Blue Protoss representing SK Gaming, MC. So, Cloud Kingdom is a map which hasn't actually been in the ladder pool for a long time, but it was for a vast period a staple, and it led to some very cool stuff, and a lot of it due to this third base in most matchups because of how many openings there are to get in there and how wide they were. It led to some really interesting times. It also was a map where Immortal Sentry all-in was terrifying because the force fields between a hatchery and obviously this area through there. Holding a third as a Zerg was horrible. But no Zergs in this map, PvP, so we may not even see a natural base. We've got to keep a good eye out for what they're going to do. Of course, game number 1, we saw MC take down or attempt to take down sOs with a cannon rush. It started off looking very promising. It was successfully deployed, but sOs, through just complete skill, held it off and then was like, MC, you don't have tech and you don't have production. I've got both of those things now, so I'm going to 4-gate you. And boy did it work well. This game MC appears to be playing things a bit more standard. He's getting down a gateway, getting down a gas. Meanwhile, over at sOs's side, he's doing the same build as he did game 1. And who can blame him? Because game number 1, he had pretty much the most all-in build you can get short of a proxy 2-gate, and he defended it fine. So just open the same and everything's going to be ace. MC opening the same as sOs this game, putting a pylon at the back, walling off here just to make sure nothing can sneak through. Reducing the number of pathing options through your mineral line is a nice little trick which can have some benefit. sOs opting instead to put his pylon right the way at the back, maybe to hide some tech going into the future. We've got to keep an eye on that. Regardless though, what we see at the moment from these two is just very standard play. Traditional PvP openings that really encounter all of the possible options. We can see that both of them both of them are currently mining with, I think it's 3 probes in each. There's a little bug out here with the GameHeart interface where it's telling me that there's no probes harvesting, but I know for a fact there is. That's 3 and 3. This one is 3 and 2 actually. So sOs just getting a minor amount more gas a minute, about 50 gas more a minute there, so nothing too crazy going on. But in terms of their tech options, both going very similar. Warp Gate tech coming down at the same time. Biggest difference really being that sOs is getting down a sentry first, whereas MC starting off with a stalker. So that's just a bit more aggressive from MC potentially. He does have the Zealot there too, so could go for the Zealot, Stalker and Mothership Core harassment. But sOs with his sentry, he will be able to force field off the ramp. He's got his Mothership Core for a bit of extra damage, and generally shouldn't be too worried about what could be coming down. Now, MC has got a little bit of scanning information, but he's not really seen too much, and critically, has not seen this Twilight Council. Is this an indicator that sOs is going for Dark Templar? Potentially. Getting the sentry down certainly means that if your opponent was, you'd be in a safe spot to defend it with some good force fields, but it could also be for Blink. That's the other big thing we've got to keep an eye out for. MC hasn't spent any of his gas yet. He's going to be investing in a second gateway though, so he's going for a nice little bit of early pressure. This could be super effective against sOs because he's only got this sentry down at the moment. What he needs to do is make sure that any units that come up get force fielded, and that is a beautiful force field by sOs. It's going to give him a free stalker, and that pretty much shuts down the pressure from MC. He doesn't have another stalker, so couldn't move up to do anything. sOs chucking down the Dark Shrine. Off the back of this, he's going to be taking just as he intended to. MC with 2 additional gateways is going for some 3-gate pressure, but losing that Stalker is critical at this stage because it's allowing sOs to stay up in the Stalker count, add in the Sentry as well for the force field, and if he manages to pull off that trick again, trapping a single unit up in his base, he's going to be a very happy Protoss player. MC going to go in, trying to get some scouting information. He's going to see 2 additional gateways. Oh, he only sees 1 additional gateway at the moment, so he may not be fully aware of what's coming down. sOs does have a probe in MC's base, but unfortunately he gets scouted before an opportunity to throw out a proxy pylon presents itself. He's got 1 down in the natural base, but none in the main, so he can still get in quick DTs. MC though, busy getting up his own Twilight Council and robotics facility, and it's the robo that's going to be essential. If DTs get in and there isn't an observer, that could be lights out for MC, both in this game and this series. Losing game number 1, of course, puts him on match point. Blink getting researched to the max as well here by SOS. So getting only the single Dark Templar out is not an overcommitment at this stage. Note the robotics facility isn't done, and this because SOS wasn't sure if the robotics facility was finished or not, so he's just going for a little bit of guaranteed damage without too much of a risk here. Aiming to kill a couple of probes. Sentries desperately trying to back their way through as well. Unfortunately, MC missing a couple of force fields there. Won't be able to zone out this Dark Templar for the moment, which is racking up a good number of kills. Already 7 kills. May get 8 as well before that observer pops through. And this is a lot of damage being done, and it's a very happy SOS, I have no doubt of that. 3 Stalkers also making their way into the mix here. And while they're not going to be able to do too much pressure, SOS is already halfway through securing up his natural base and has knocked the probe count of MC down to 8 below his own. So, MC is now in a bit of a tough spot. While his army supply is relatively similar, he's down by 7 workers and is soon going to fall quite a long way behind in terms of economy. SOS going for an engagement here. It's before Blink is done. MC forcing him back. This will not trade cost effectively for him. Luckily manages to sneak that Stalker past as the force field wasn't able to trap it quite long enough. But regardless, MC about to lose a proxy pylon. He does see, of course, that there is an expansion coming down there, but it's SOS who's losing a lot more on the other side. Quite a few Stalkers getting taken out here. MC getting a relatively good trade for the moment, but needs to be careful not to make losses of his own. Blink now done for SOS, and he is going to go over towards his pylon where reinforcements are ready and waiting. And these reinforcements completely tip the tide of this engagement. SOS is now 4 Stalkers up against 1 a Zealot and a Sentry. Losing though that Stalker is critical for MC. He does have more on the way through, but then so does SOS and Blink as well, playing such an important part. Blink still a good 40 seconds away from completion for MC, and that's what's causing him all the heartache. A Sentry desperately trying to do a bit more damage. SOS just saving that Stalker, but also manages to take out the Sentry. But MC with a good play gets the force field down first, preventing these Stalkers waltzing straight up and in for a bit longer. SOS back at his side of the map though has got his natural nexus up and running, and with all of this things are looking very nice. We do have though SOS making his way up into MC's base. He knows he's got a good economy, but he wants to pile home the pressure. With Blink now done on both sides, it's a micro fest, but probes being pulled for MC really with no choice since SOS just has so many more units here. SOS dealing the damage, picking off a couple more probes. 8 workers in total have now been killed. MC following on with more pressure, but he's losing so much mining time. MC doesn't actually know that the natural is there back at SOS's base, so putting these probes is a big investment, knocking his economy next to nothing. Maybe feeling that this is his only opportunity to win the game by taking out all of this pressure. But unfortunately, SOS is getting further and further ahead, especially as this probe count really starts to feel the brunt of this Blink Stalker force, down to only 18 workers on MC's side, up against SOS who's at 33, producing 2 at a time. He can keep up the production, and MC force fielding, trying to salvage this game, but knows he can't. GG's out, and game number 2 will go to SOS, meaning that he takes the series 2-0. Congratulations to SOS there. If you enjoyed the cast, make sure you like the video, leave a cool comment and subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with yet another new game. But since it is Christmas Eve, I hope you all have an amazing Christmas, and I'll see you tomorrow.